Hey there, this is Ryan with Ryan Lake Real Estate. Obviously, you know that, you subscribed, and you are staying tuned in. So, obviously, you either like what I'm talking about or you're just curious, and either one of those are good with me. So, if you watched the previous two videos, you had noted most likely that I'm going to be talking about three different strategies that I'm really bullish on, that I personally invest in. And number one was about single family homes with a basement suite. I think that's really good for a new investor, someone who just wants to get their feet wet in real estate investing. And number two was all about fourplexes. And I think if you have a sizable chunk of money that you want to throw down in the property world, I think that's an extremely wise choice, and it's something that I'm going to be doing within the next 10 months or so. And something I currently do as well is private lending. I like to hedge my bets. Okay, so I'm an equity player by owning property and waiting for the cash flow and the equity to rise. And I'm also a debt investor, so I lend my money to other people as well. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today is private lending. So what is it, and what it can do for you, and yeah, just some examples of expectations that I want to present to you. I'm going to show you an exact deal that I am doing right now that's given me a solid 18% that I'm going to show you at the end of that. Okay, so I think this strategy is worth paying attention to specifically. I'm actually really excited to do this because I think it's undersold. A lot of people know all about buying a property, renting it out, and blah, 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 blah. Everyone's heard about a slumlord. Rarely do people really talk about private lending. There's kind of like a mysterious network, or like a black curtain around it for whatever reason. But in my world, I see it all the time. I get emails all the time with different offerings of people that are requesting funds and looking for people who have the gold. So if you have the gold and you're looking for a consistent yield, especially if you are the type of person who doesn't want to invest in property, if you think that business is messy, if you don't want to worry about tenants, if you don't want to hire property managers to look after all that stuff, you just want to simplify your life and get a solid, predictable monthly return that's relatively low risk and super high returns, well, stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to tell you all about that. So what the heck is private lending? Essentially, it's taking money from a TFSA, registered account, RSP, even cash, or a home equity line of credit. Wherever you can source cash from and value, you can invest in one of these bad boys, okay? And essentially, that money is going towards a mortgage for someone else. And because mortgages are secured against title, that money that you invest in is secured 100% against the title of the property. And that cannot be sold or done anything with until you get paid out first, because you're in a title position. Okay, so some things to keep in mind: make sure that there's a significant loan to value, or at least one that you're comfortable with. And if you know the market, then maybe you can make some more sophisticated judgments on that. And but not to get into the details. This is not an education seminar on how to invest. This is just an info session of what the heck it is, and give you a few examples. Okay, and this is a highly regulated industry, actually. Just to talk about that for a second, it's not just a bunch of cowboys that are looking to make a buck off you. Like, this is quite the opposite. It's a very sophisticated way to invest, and it's highly regulated by the Canadian banking industry. Okay, all these deals are taken a look at, and yeah, so you can kind of rest assured on that, although they are on the private side. And this is kind of where I find things are kind of paradoxical, because the Securities and Exchange Commission look at different investing strategies. They will usually require that you become an accredited investor before you make these types of investments. So you need a certain degree of net worth, or a large degree of sophistication, and they look at your background. But generally, it's based on salary, and different provinces have different regulations on the Securities and Exchange Commission at which you can invest in the private market. That's like not part of the public market, which is what the banks will offer you. So you will never find these deals on a mutual fund. You'll never find them on the stock market. They're not publicly traded. These are private deals by private individuals that are governed by private individuals like you and I. Okay, so really your network is your net worth in this case. And if you've never been exposed to this, I'm your guy that you should know, because I get these deals all the time, and I have about 4 different companies that that you may want to take a look at after this video if you like what you see. Okay, so I want to ask yourself, would you rather be an equity player and with a profit split, or would you rather be a player that owns the debt and collects interest? Okay, so maybe I'll rephrase that a little bit. What would you rather have? What do you think is safer for your money? Okay, would you rather have equity with profit sharing, or would you rather carry the debt with interest? So I'll give you a couple moments to think about that. Okay, did you have your answer? Let's see. Well, debt is always safer, and that's because debt is always paid out first. Okay, so you get paid first if you own the debt, which is why it's the #1 business in the banking institution. Banks will loan money to give you a mortgage. They love it because they know that there's real intrinsic value underneath the title of that property. Okay, so if anything happens, then they'll just sell the house on you and put it on the market, put it on auction, and they'll get their money back. They don't care. Okay, so if the banks are playing this game, why can't you? That's the question you should ask yourself. And this is like the safest, simplest way to invest in real estate. It's just like, it's turnkey, it's awesome, and it's low risk and super high returns. Okay, so to give you an example, I don't want to ramble on and take up a bunch of your time. I know it's valuable, which is why we're investing for our futures. Okay, so let's look at example #1. Should be popping up here on the screen. So I'm just going to deviate my eyes here so I can actually see what you're looking at. So this is just an example of a typical deal. Residential property appraised at about $400,000. The first mortgage that's already existing is $287,000, and then the mortgage requested from someone like you and I is about $37,000 for 1 year. And these are typically short-term deals. They just need a high-interest mortgage to get the monkey off the back for a little bit, to take care of business, just like a credit card. You know, sometimes you just need it in a bind. So this serves kind of the same purpose, and this is what allows us to get those high returns from the private side, the double-digit returns. Okay, so in this particular case, they needed it to pay off a little bit of debt, probably consumer debt, the high-interest debt, increase their credit score to get some of that off their books and only have one payment that they focus on, similar to a collateralized debt obligation. And they refinanced in the summer of 2018 to take out the equity and pay this person out. Okay, and so this was a 14% interest deal, meaning the investor, you or I, potentially could have invested on this, got 14% on their money. Super cool, super common. This is not sexy, it's not bad, it's just, you know, it's pretty average actually. So the first mortgage example, now this is all from a guy that I know who's done real deals, and he helped me package together a little info of things that he does in Canada. Okay, and this old property is in downtown Ottawa, purchase price of $400,000, and the first mortgage was $200,000. Okay, so this is a first mortgage position, which means there's only one mortgage, and that's you. You or I give this person money for this property for a 1-year term, 8% interest only payments with a significant loan to value ratio, meaning there's a large amount of safety built into this deal. So the worst case that's going to happen if he doesn't pay his bills, then we drop the value 20%, and then there's still, you know, 30% loan to value to be sold, and then you get paid out first. So there's like literally no chance you're going to lose your money. So I think this is a no-brainer, and it's a pretty modest interest as well at 8%. I don't know why my screen is getting all fuzzy here. There we go. Okay. So, and this particular client renewed for a second term. So this repeated again, and this is all negotiable. Okay, so it's not like your money's locked in for life. And so the second example that was a real deal, this value was 700, basically $750,000. First mortgage close to $500,000 with a existing Scotia Step LLC, which is basically a mortgage that's in place with a home equity line of credit built into it. And so as that mortgage gets paid down, more gets accessible via a line of credit that's secured against the property, which is important because it's not unsecured, it's secured, meaning you're going to get a lower interest rate. All right, and then there was a second mortgage in place behind the LOC for $40,000 at an interest rate of 15%. So total loan to value was 67%, still 33% equity in this deal, which is pretty safe, considering that a conventional mortgage for a rental property, for example, the banks only require 80% loan to value. So you need to put down 20%. So if this has 33% down technically, then this is super safe, super conservative. And yeah, this one's a little bit more complicated, but these are still common, and they renewed for a second term, which happens a lot. And to give you the example of what I'm doing, this particular client renewed for a third term this last April, and which is awesome because it's like 18%. And the history of this one was someone who worked in the construction industry just outside of Edmonton, and he needed to quit his job to help pay for some medical bills for his child, unfortunately, who was going through some different treatments. And the banks don't really care. You know, they just want their money. They don't care your personal story, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. So he either had one of two options. He could claim bankruptcy, or he could just get the monkey off his back by getting a short-term loan and just dealing, you know, with life and moving on, biting the bullet and moving past that. So he picked the lesser of two evils, which is the wisest choice. And that deal was the deal that you see here. And now this was a deal for $27,000. So, you know, nothing crazy, any other income to support it. And the monthly payment was $405 based on 18% interest, which sounds like a lot, but I mean, it's only $400 a month. Most of us can squirrel away that amount. And then his plan was to refinance at the end of the year and pay me back my money. And so he has not done that due to whatever. I don't keep in contact with these people. I just submit my money and wait for the checks to come in. It's their responsibility to pay on time. But he had a large amount of loan to value in there. He just couldn't pay his bills. And instead of the banks taking his house away from him, he just wanted to keep the roof over his head. So he's more inclined to pay this on time, which is what is happening here. So he renewed again in the month of April, and you can see there that yeah, the payment is coming in on time. Now that was just a screenshot I took over on my phone of my Olympia Trust account, which is just a company where you can put your private money into and invest in secured investments like this one with your TFSAs and RSPs. So it's not a significant amount, I realize that, but I split it up. So I just invested in this one particular mortgage in this one account. And yeah, so I just want to show you that. And that's a real deal that happens quite often. So 18% is not typical. It's usually reserved for smaller amounts. If you're going for larger amounts like that deal that you saw with the $200,000 mortgage, that's like 8% in first position. So that's gonna be lower. Smaller mortgages like this, you could do them more frequently all day, but it's just more paperwork and more times you gotta sign. So it's not for everyone. But if you just want to, put your toe in the water and test something out, I mean, I could think of worse things to invest your money in. And yeah, and you can even give a home equity line of credit a try. This is something I probably wouldn't hesitate with. So it's because the spreads are so significant here. If I'm getting 18% and then I can take out money from my home equity line of credit at whatever it is right now, 4.5%, then I'm still getting like, whatever that is, 13.5% on my money, which is like double what people make still. So, I mean, money's just sitting there. You're just sitting on a pile of wealth and you don't even know it. And just make sure that before you do these things, you look into it a little bit and you make sure that you're making the right decision for you. But I think it's an awesome strategy for some people who really want that consistent monthly income they need to retire on. And yeah, I just want to give you one example as well before I let you go. I know this is getting along. This video is becoming quite long, but let's say you needed $50,000 to retire on. Okay, so just by switching vehicles, just by switching vehicles, you're probably already retired and you don't even know it. So some numbers to prove that. Okay, so say you just need $50,000, got your house paid off, all that jazz. So you could either take your money and put it in something like this, so you get 18%. So if you're getting 18% on your money consistently, you would only need $277,000 to get $50,000 in an annual salary. It's not a heck of a lot of change is needed. Okay, so if you think you need $1 million to retire, the math here just simply proves otherwise. Okay, so if you were to go a more traditional route, maybe some high interest rate mutual funds that the bank provides at 6%, that same $50,000 that you need annually, you would need a lump sum of $833,000 to retire. So this is more than just numbers. This is more than me trying to educate you about real estate. This is really me enhancing your life and showing you a better, faster way to get to your retirement goals sooner. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to give you that example, plant that seed in your head, and whatever you choose to do with that is your decision. If you want to get in touch with me and talk a little bit more about opportunities like these and some opportunities available, I can forward some to you. Just get a hold of me at either 1-306-807-4890, or you can email me at Ryan Lake Real Estate. Once again, my number is 306-807-4890, or you can email me. Okay, hopefully you've took away something from this and got your brain spewing all sorts of ideas on different ways to invest in real estate. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Talk later. Bye-bye.